blimey, it's hot today. As always, a big thank you to everyone who liked and watched and commented on the previous video. It's always great to get your support and kindness and the comments from you all, like with Krolos last week, with sentiment about Shoto's statement to Endeavour in the last episode. It is always great to see your continued support and kindness from all of you. It really is an inspiring thing to do, and if you would be so kind to do that again this week, it would be very much appreciated. YouTube is an increasingly scary place for small content creators these days, so you gotta support them where you can. Next video you watch, give it a like, give it a thumbs up. Doesn't have to be me, it can be anyone that you want. You gotta share love these days, you gotta feed the algorithm. And anyway, on with the review. This week, it was time for some extended cast fun and frivolity. Way! It was a short stopover in some tangentially related crime-busting fun time stuff. I say tangentially related as it turns out due to a post-credit scene, it actually was connected to the main plot in quite a big way, but we'll get onto that stuff shortly. I really did enjoy this week's episode as it had a great spirit of adventure to it that I really do dig. Admittedly, sometimes it did feel like watching a different programme, mostly due to just how fresh and different stuff felt. Yeah, I know it's still a continuation of superhero fun time punchy stuff that we've had over the last week or two or so, but still I liked it. Seeing different characters who we don't usually get time to focus on, having time to shine, and putting them in the limelight really does change the dynamic of the show in quite an interesting way. Sure, there are some moments in it which, I'm going to be honest, and I'm not saying this is a negative, again, it felt like watching a different show. If it weren't for the fact that there was superhero stuff thrown in here, effectively what we got is a bunch of heroes defeating a drug smuggling operation. It's the kind of thing that if you were to take the superhero element out of it, it could quite easily have happened in an episode of The New Adventures of Johnny Quest, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and yeah, if you really did take the superhero element out of it totally and rework the plot a little bit, it could have been an episode of Baywatch. Sure, those are some tenuous links to be sure, but still, it had a very different feel to it. Something that had a feel of it being distinctly summery, which is apt, given at the moment it feels like the wallpaper's going to start peeling off the walls at any moment, given how warm it is here, but we'll move on. I really did appreciate just how much of a lighter and brighter feel that this episode had, yet at the same time was able to do some serious superhero stuff. Granted, it wasn't the most serious of seriousness in the grand scheme of things, but, it was connected to the larger plot in a way which we, again, will talk about in just a moment. I am glad, however, this episode wasn't just an excuse to have a lark about, just to throw the hands in the air and just have an episode which was effectively just going to be something that some people dismiss as being filler, because, let's be honest, it's not really that connected to the main plot as maybe as much as I'm making it out to be, and it's an episode which a lot of people could quite easily just skip over. If it wasn't for that little clip towards the end of the episode after the credits have gone, there really wouldn't be much connected to the main plot at all. Sure, you have the connection towards the trigger stuff, but that's stuff which is just part of the world at this point. It's something that is just so intrinsically connected to it that I imagine that if there is going to be a sequel series to My Hero Academia further down the line, they're probably still going to be dealing with Trigger or some other kind of a sequel drug to it, just by how prevalent it seems to be in the world at the moment. You know what, it just dawned upon me, I'm just really surprised that Midoriya, Bakugo and Shoto just didn't feature in the episode really at all. This isn't something I've got down in my notes, but it only just dawned upon me right now that they didn't do anything. Like, they were there in the episode, right at the very start of it, we had that flashback to Christmas Day, but after that they just disappeared from the story entirely. Like, they had no real impact upon the narrative or anything that happened thereafter, which kind of makes me wonder as to why they had that moment in the story at all. Maybe it was to help just slowly ease people into the fact that you're watching My Hero Academia, maybe it was just a bit that they need to add for clarity, I really don't know. I'm sure that someone in the comment section will clarify as to why that scene is there, but it just kind of felt a little bit redundant. I'm not sure if there was anything there that we needed to know that we didn't already know from stuff that's been said previously, or stuff that we could have just ascertained by just using a little bit of our little, brain power. Still, regardless of whatever the intent may be, it's not something that really brings down the episode or makes it bad or anything like that. It's just a moment which I don't fully get in an episode which I really do enjoy. It's a fantastic little episode all said and done, even if it didn't have any kind of connections to the main plot. There is one bit that just kind of make my head scratch a little bit, because I can only assume that this episode takes place after a little bit of a time jump towards, like, early spring or something like that, or this episode takes place like south of the equator or something, because as far as I'm aware, it's still winter in their world, right? It's still like early January, or a push, early February. It's going to be freezing cold outside, yet they're going to the beach. I don't get it. Okay, I do get it. I know why that whole sequence happened. We all know why that sequence happened, but as it's happening, I'm just sat there thinking to myself, oh, they'll catch the death going out just like that. Oh, in that cold water, they'll be getting sniffles, they'll be getting the flu. Oh, you can't be a superhero with the flu. Superheroes fly, but they don't get the flu. Oh, I'm just there quivering, just thinking to myself, oh God, they're going to be feeling awful after all this. But you know what? I suppose global warming's gone mental in that world, or it's just something I didn't think about at the time. I don't know why I was thinking about the weather at that point, but you know what? It's really, really hot at the moment, so I can't think of anything else but the weather. On a minor note, it's nice to see, or at least hear, about the wider world that this show takes place in, even if it does feel like they're just making up names for places at this point, like they have the Umble Gumble or whatever it is that's in Europe and the other nation that they make up towards the start of the episode where this big factory fire is taking place in. Like, you can interpret it however you wish. I personally interpret it as being a sign that during the emergence of quirks it led to a lot of upheaval in the world and the formation of breakaway states and new nations. Or alternatively, you can interpret it as the writers going, I need a name for this place. Nuts, I'll just call it Gumble Bumble or whatever. Fine, no one's gonna care. There, it's going out. Like, either this is world building, it's just a case of just throwing a name out there, I don't know, but I like to interpret it as world building. You might disagree, but I thought it was a fun little bit. And speaking of fun little bits, I finally got my yes, everything is going to plan bit. Like, I know it's a minor thing, it's a silly thing, it's a Saturday morning cartoon thing, but at least gives us an idea of the intent and the villainy of the villains that we're going up against. In a very superficial kind of way, I'll grant you, but, you know, I was fine with that. You know, in the post-credit sequence, we had that little bit with Blue Man Group standing there talking sinisterly about the trigger and about how the loss of that particular batch doesn't really affect their plans and about how soon they'll liberate humanity, which gives a distinct hint that these guys actually do believe in this mantra and it's not something that was just made up to manipulate the masses. It actually is a thing for them, which is an interesting angle, or at least it's a thing for him. So, you know, I'm interested to see how this further develops, because this is the first, like, proper stab at seeing villainy with our villains that we've had this season. And I'm perfectly fine with that. We got there eventually. We got there eventually to see them, or at least hear them, being a little bit more sinister than just standing in the shadows looking enigmatically. We'll see where all this goes. I really have just totally forgotten what was in the preview, so whatever, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But anyway, that is pretty much it for the review right now. I just want to say here and now, before we get into the wrap-up, that next week's video is going to be going up late. Probably about maybe a couple hours late, because I'm going to get an eye test that morning. So things are going to be a bit delayed. I have to go into town to get it done, but at least I'll finally have new glasses and I'll be able to look at things for extended periods without my eyes feeling as though they're going to fall out. But, you know, whatever, that is great. And speaking of great, thank you for sticking with me through the entirety of this video. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up, a like, and do all the YouTubey stuff that YouTube wants you to do. There's not much else for me to say right now other than to say I hope you have a great week, weekend, night, day, or whatever it is that you're doing. Thank you all for watching, and goodbye! Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, favourite, subscribe, click the bell, and do all the YouTubey stuff that YouTube wants you to do. Go on, it'll do me a power of good. Until next time, my friends, goodbye!